Every gardener on Earth is fighting the wrong war. They see aphids on their tomatoes and reach for a spray bottle. They see caterpillars on their cabbage and reach for a powder. They see beetles on their beans and reach for a chemical that kills everything it touches. Every year the bugs come back, worse, more resistant, more numerous. Because the gardener was never fighting the bugs. The bugs are not the problem. The bugs are the symptom. A USDA entomologist proved this 50 years ago. His name was Philip Callahan. He held a doctorate from Kansas State, published over 106 academic papers, won the USDA Superior Service Award, and spent 4 decades at the Insect Attractant and Behavior Laboratory in Gainesville, Florida. His job was to find out why insects attacked certain plants and ignored others. His assignment, given to him as a graduate student by Professor Reginald Painter, was to figure out why corn earworm moths laid far more eggs on plants grown in poor soil than on plants grown in dark, well-aerated bottomland soil. The answer took him 40 years to confirm. But when he found it, it overturned the dominant theory of how insects find their food, and it made the entire pesticide industry's business model collapse in a single sentence. Insects do not find plants by smell, they find them by frequency. Every living organism emits infrared radiation. Every plant, every animal, every insect. This is not metaphor, this is physics. All objects above absolute zero emit electromagnetic radiation in the infrared spectrum. The warmer the object, the more radiation it emits. But Callahan discovered something that went far beyond temperature. He discovered that the tiny spine-like structures on insect antennae, called sensilla, are not chemical receptors. They are dielectric waveguide antennas. They function exactly like the radio antennas Callahan had worked with as a United States Army Air Force radio operator during World War II. They receive specific frequencies of infrared radiation, and they tune to specific wavelengths the way a radio tunes to a station. This was the breakthrough that caused what Callahan himself described as a firestorm in entomology. Many established researchers were furious. Callahan had overturned what he called their pet theory of olfaction, the idea that insects simply smell their way to food through chemical receptors. He was not saying smell did not exist. He was saying smell was not the mechanism. He was saying the molecules insects respond to are not being sniffed. They are being received as electromagnetic signals. The distinction matters enormously because it changes the entire strategy for pest control. If insects find plants by chemistry, you fight them with chemistry. But if insects find plants by frequency, you fight them by changing the frequency. And you cannot change a frequency with a bottle of poison. So, if insect antennae are electromagnetic receivers, then what are the plants transmitting? The answer is volatile organic compounds. Every plant on Earth emits a cloud of airborne chemicals. Healthy plants emit one profile. Stressed plants emit a completely different one. When a plant is grown in depleted soil, when it is over-fertilized with synthetic nitrogen, when it is drought-stressed, heat-stressed, or nutritionally deficient, its metabolism shifts. It begins producing elevated levels of ethanol and ammonia, 2 chemicals that are universal markers of fermentation and decay. These molecules do not just drift passively through the air, they fluoresce in the infrared spectrum. They emit specific frequencies of electromagnetic radiation, and those are exactly the frequencies that pest insect antennae are tuned to receive. A sick plant is not just vulnerable. A sick plant is broadcasting a distress signal, and every pest insect within range is receiving it. Callahan published this in 1975 in his book Tuning In to Nature. He stated it plainly. Unhealthy plants from sick, poison-fed soil give off slightly higher ethanol and ammonia infrared signals than healthy plants. Ask any professional entomologist what are 2 of the most universal attractants of insects, and they will agree they are ethanol and ammonia. Both are precursors of fermentation and death. Modern peer-reviewed science has confirmed everything Callahan proposed. A 2024 study published in Trends in Plant Science found that plants emit volatile organic compounds, airborne signals that neighboring plants absorb through their stomata to prepare their own defense systems. Plants under herbivore attack release specific blends of terpenes, green leaf volatiles, and methyl salicylate that attract parasitoid wasps, the natural enemies of the attacking pests. Healthy plants surrounded by other healthy plants create a chemical defense network. Stressed plants isolated in depleted soil, stripped of microbial allies by tillage and pesticides, emit the opposite, a beacon that says, "Come eat me." This is where the pesticide industry's model falls apart. Pesticides do not fix the signal, they suppress the symptom. You spray an insecticide and the aphids die, but the plant is still stressed. The soil is still depleted, the signal is still broadcasting. And now you have added a new stressor, the pesticide itself, which further disrupts the plant's metabolism and soil biology. Neonicotinoids, the most widely used class of insecticides on Earth, are systemic. They enter the plant's vascular system and persist in every tissue, including the pollen and nectar. They do not just kill pests, they kill pollinators. They kill the beneficial soil microbes that help plants access nutrients. They create the very nutritional deficiency that produces the distress signal that attracted the pests in the first place. The plant emits an even stronger beacon. More pests arrive, you spray again. The cycle accelerates. The industry calls this the pesticide treadmill. They built their business model on it. Callahan said it himself, worldwide pesticide use is at an all-time high, and crops lost to insect damage are also at an all-time high. Insects account for a 13 to 16% loss from $244 billion in crops annually in the United States alone. Biotic stresses, including insects, bacteria, and fungi, account for over 30% of losses in annual global food production, roughly $500 billion per year. And the industry's answer is always the same: more spray, more often, more expensive. You cannot poison your way out of a frequency problem. So, what does copper have to do with any of this? Georges Lakhovsky demonstrated in 1924 that a simple, open-ended ring of copper wire placed around a plant could alter the plant's electromagnetic environment. His experiment at the Pasteur Institute showed that geranium plants infected with tumor-causing bacteria healed within 14 days when surrounded by a copper ring, while every control plant without a ring died. Lakhovsky's theory was that every living cell is an electromagnetic oscillator, and that the copper ring, acting as a resonant antenna, captured atmospheric electrical energy and restored the plant's oscillatory equilibrium. Modern precision agriculture has validated the core observation, even if the mechanism is still debated. Thermal and infrared imaging studies confirm that stressed plants exhibit measurable changes in temperature, water flow, and metabolism, changes that are detectable before visible symptoms appear. These changes directly correlate with increased pest pressure. Plants with balanced mineral nutrition, strong photosynthetic efficiency, and healthy cellular metabolism emit a different infrared signature than plants that are struggling. The insects are reading the signature. They are not choosing randomly. They are selecting targets based on electromagnetic information. When copper is present in the soil environment, it participates in galvanic reactions with soil moisture and other metals. Copper ions are released slowly into the root zone. Copper is a critical micronutrient for plant health, essential for photosynthesis, respiration, and the production of lignin, the structural compound that makes cell walls rigid. Plants with adequate copper produce stronger cell walls, more efficient chloroplasts, and more complete protein synthesis. They produce fewer of the incomplete protein fragments and excess amino acids that attract sap-sucking insects like aphids. At the same time, copper in the soil environment deters slugs and snails through direct contact. The galvanic reaction between copper and the moisture in a slug's body produces a mild electrical charge that repels the animal. This is not folklore. It is electrochemistry. The same principle that purifies water in a copper-zinc galvanic cell creates a physical barrier against soft-bodied pests when copper is present in the garden. And here is the connection that Callahan's work makes clear. A plant that is nutritionally complete, electromagnetically balanced, and growing in biologically active soil does not emit the distress frequencies that attract pest insects. It becomes functionally invisible. Not because the insects cannot see it, but because the insects are not tuned to its frequency. Their antennae are scanning for the infrared signature of ethanol and ammonia, the markers of weakness and decay. A healthy plant does not transmit those markers. It transmits the frequencies of a thriving organism. And pest insects have no evolutionary reason to attack a thriving organism, because thriving organisms fight back, and nature does not waste energy on battles that cannot be won. This is why Amish farms with healthy soil have fewer pest problems. This is why companion planting works, because aromatic herbs emit volatile compounds that mask or confuse the infrared signals that pests are scanning for. This is why compost-rich soil produces plants that resist disease. And this is why a copper coil in the garden, whether it works through atmospheric antenna effects, micronutrient delivery, galvanic soil reactions, or some combination of all three, consistently correlates with reduced pest pressure in the reports of practitioners who use it. The pesticide industry generates over $9 billion a year in the home and garden segment alone. That revenue depends on a single assumption, that insects are the enemy, and the only way to fight them is to buy a product that kills them. Callahan spent 40 years proving that assumption is wrong. Insects are not attacking your plants because they are hungry. They are attacking your plants because your plants are calling them. Fix the plant, fix the soil, fix the signal, and the insects will stop coming. Not because you killed them, but because your garden stopped broadcasting the frequency that invited them. One copper coil does not make a garden invisible overnight, but it is a piece of a system that does. Healthy soil, balanced minerals, biological activity, electromagnetic coherence. No synthetic chemicals disrupting the metabolism that keeps the signal clean. This is not a hack. This is how nature has been managing pests for 400 million years. We just forgot. If this is the first Forbidden Harvest video you have watched, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We uncover the science that the chemical industry would prefer stayed buried. Drop a comment and tell us, have your plants ever been pest-free without a single spray? The harvest begins now.